Bell. I'd like to start the service and welcome everyone to Unity Spiritual Center here in Lower Lake, our Sunday service with Dr. Will Tuttle. We are so honored to have him with us today. And you all know that he's an acclaimed composer, pianist, and educator. And what's going to happen is that I'm going to light the Christ candle and then go ahead and will do a short prayer on his piano after the Christ candle lighting. So here's my candle, my angel candle. And I want you to imagine that the light of this candle is the living life of the Christ. That spark of the divine that lives within us. We give thanks, and it is so. And Will, would you honor us with a short prayer piano?
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, for joining us this morning. Sunday morning, October 8th, 2023. It's great to be here. This is Dr. Will Tuttle, and I'd like to go ahead and do an opening prayer on the piano. It's so funny. I in the Japanese people, they don't have the letter L in their alphabet. So when they say piano playing, they can't say that. They just say piano praying. So we're going to do some piano praying, some Japanese Japanese piano praying. So this is kind of like the Lord's Prayer. However you think of the Lord. I mean, this is one of the, it doesn't have to be any particular gender, of course, but the infinite love that is the source of our life. Just taking a moment in silence, maybe connecting together with our awareness as one life living through all of us.
Well, thank you, Will. That was beautiful. You give me chills every time you're at the piano. Wow. All right. Well, I would like to continue now with doing some of our Unity Church traditions here. And first, the invocation affirmation. And think about it. This is who we are. First, there is only one presence and one power active in my life, God, the good, omnipotent. And then there is only one presence and one power active in Unity Clear Lake Center, God, the good, omnipotent. And finally, there is only one presence and one power active in our world, God, the good, omnipotent. And the five basic ideas of unity is actually the basic foundation of unity. The first, God is absolute good, everywhere present. Second, human beings have a spark of divine spirit within them, the Christ consciousness within. Therefore, they are inherently good. Third, the human beings create their experience by the activity of their thinking. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. 4, prayer is the process that affirms our connection with God mind and brings forth wisdom, healing, and everything good. And finally, knowing and understanding universal laws, also called truth, are not enough. A person must also live the truth that he or she knows. And we continue now with music from Will Tuttle. Thank you, Will.
All right, thanks, Barbara. And yeah, I think I'd like to just go ahead and play a piece of music that is from the album. It's called The Call. It's called Redwood Light. It's a piece that I composed many years ago when we used to live in Healdsburg, north of Santa Rosa. And I was taking a walk one evening among the redwood trees that lived below our property, these ancient, gigantic trees, the tallest trees on earth, actually, as you know, are the redwood trees. And I heard a melody, and it seemed to really come from the trees. And I was really glad that when I got back up to the little house where we were living, that I remembered it and I could write it down. And I'd like to share this melody with you now and dedicate it to the forests of the earth that are under quite an attack right now by human activity, clear-cutting forests and destroying a lot of habitat. And the trees, I think, have a tremendous, not only importance for us, in fact, in the sense that they inhale our carbon dioxide and create oxygen, but also I think perhaps they come to us in our dreams to remind us of an ancient song of wisdom that we have in some ways forgotten, but that still reverberates in the marrow of our bones. So this piece of music to me is a reminder of that song. It's called Redwood Light. Joy. Thank you.
And thank you, Nancy, for your little dance. I loved it. You're beautiful. Uh, yeah, well, I listened to your CDs and I happened to have the call on the other night. I'm piano music. I just don't always go for. And wow, fabulous
Thank
again.
you. Thank you.
Wonderful,
Thank you.
wonderful. Um, so here we are. I was planning to read the Daily Word at this point, and before Will gets into his talk very soon. Hope my sound isn't breaking up
It's okay. It's okay.
too much. It's okay. Yay,
You're good.
yay. Because, okay, so well, the Daily Word for yesterday on the 14th was on healing. So I'm reading that one. Uh, and the affirmation is my positive attitude about my body and mind helps heal me. Just about every day, I get a message from society, others' comments, and even my own inner critic that there's something about my body or mind that needs fixing. Accepting the idea that something is inherently wrong with me puts me at odds with myself and keeps me from fully feeling my oneness with God. I claim my healing by focusing on what's great about my mind and body. I lovingly appreciate them for working to help me working to keep me alive and functioning. I pay attention to any aches or unsettling feelings and feel grateful for the cue to rest and take care of myself. Shifting my perspective blesses me and helps me prioritize my physical and mental health so I can better know my wholeness. And from Proverbs 12:18, rash words are like swords thrust, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Now, Dr. Tuttle is here today to help us have a positive attitude, a positive affirmation about music and how it helps to heal our mind and our body. So I would like to give the service over to you, Dr. Tuttle. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Barbara. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting. What we just heard, the daily word, and I think it's actually a good jumping off point, just in the sense that we are getting messages all the time from society, especially that are, I think, in many ways counterproductive in terms of being healthy, physically and psychologically and spiritually. We're taught that we're just this physical body, for example, that this thing that was born and will die, this object, this piece of matter. And what we are actually, we have to remember this. This is the key thing, that we are what makes this possible. What we are is essentially spiritual or consciousness. And this physical body is a vehicle for our true nature, for our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And when we understand that, I think that helps to bring a deeper understanding and awareness, not only of ourselves and nature, as also manifestations of infinite divine consciousness, but also music. So I do want to talk about a little bit about the healing power of music, because I think it's been recognized. I mean, the interesting thing is even the AMA, the American Medical Association, has come out officially saying that music does have the potential to be healing or to bring about a better situation in our body and mind. And I'm sure many of you have either consciously or unconsciously used music for healing in some way, to improve your mood or your spirits. And so I want to talk about that, because music is very interesting. It has a tremendous power. I'll show you this little photograph that I got from my mother. And it's me, actually, when I was, I think, maybe 1 year old or something. Can you see that? I don't know. I'll try to hold it up here if I can. But anyway, so there I am. This is in Concord, Massachusetts, probably 1950. I was born in 1953, so I can't believe I'm 70 years old. Where does the time go? But anyway, so this was taken maybe when I was about 1 year old. And my father played the piano, and I was the oldest child. So naturally, I wanted to be like him. So I was banging away there from the time my first opportunity. And he was actually my first teacher and taught me to play the piano. And we got these books, and I went through and had to play. And he told me, you can make music and play like I do, but there's one thing you're going to have to do, and that is you're going to have to practice. And to me, that's one of the great lessons, really, that music has taught me over the years, is the benefits of practice. Because really, life is practice. Everything we do is practice. And that's one of the reasons I love Unity, in the sense is that it's called the Unity is the Church of Practical Christianity. In other words, we're not just going to theorize about this. We want to find out how we can live this in our daily lives, how we can practically demonstrate healing and kindness and compassion and so forth. And so we are always practicing. That's the thing. We're always practicing. It's just, what are we practicing? Am I practicing being better at being afraid and judgmental and critical? Or am I practicing getting better at being understanding and aware and conscious and grateful and creative? And I think all of these underlying questions really in our life today come from the fact that we've been taught from the time we're little infants to practice things that are not in our best interest. And one of the things that I've discovered over the years, of course, and some of you know this, is that our food system in many ways is based on dominating and exploiting animals and nature, and we're eating that. And it's very important for us to just be aware of that. And the whole thing is that we don't have to judge and blame anyone, really. It's just to understand the situation that we're born into, and then to bring more harmony to that, to try to make the life that we're living be part of the solution to the problems in the world, rather than merely being part of the problem. And so one of the things I think is to try to question the official stories in society, and to question what we're told about food, and what we're told about music, and what we're told about health and healing. And I think one of the main things to remember, actually, is that there's really very little money in healthy, happy people, right? There's a lot of money in unhappy, unhealthy people. That's where the real money is. And there's tremendous profits that are being made by the pharmaceutical, medical, industrial complex. And it's connected with the media to keep us afraid and critical. And that's where the money is. So one of the reasons I think unity is so important, and really spirituality in general, and the teachings of Jesus and all the great spiritual teachers, is that we take responsibility for the quality of our consciousness, which allows us to take responsibility for the quality of our health. And when we do that, we become a revolution. I think of a transformative revolution of one person, and we become contagious. I think that's one of the great things, is we can be contagious and spread our joy and our health to others. We can also be contagious and spread our fear to others as well. And that's what we see happening a lot lately, is a lot of fear contagion. And the more afraid we are, the body mind is one thing, it's not separate. And so when our body reflects our mind in many ways. So if our mind is diseased, if we're not at ease, if we're stressed out, then very often our body will manifest that. And of course, that's where the money is. And then we go to a doctor and we take drugs, and then we're involved in the whole thing. So you've probably heard me say that Madeline and I have managed to stay out of doctors' offices now for over 50 years. And I think music is part of it for me. Music, because I think playing the piano for me every day is part of the therapy in the sense of connecting with the vibrations. Because that's why I want to bring this in, is that music is really a vibration. And the other thing that we have to understand is that there's positive and negative vibrations, and positive and negative music. And in ancient traditions understood this. And it's interesting, like if you read, I used to teach college courses on Plato, and Plato says, this is 2,500 years ago in Greece, that certain modalities of music will make people strong and others will make people weak. And some will make us the whole society healthy, and some will make the whole society weak. And it's interesting also in the ancient Chinese tradition, the emperors would send the ministers out into the villages and say, just listen to the music that the people are playing and come back and report to me whether the people are happy, whether they're getting rebellious, what's going on. You don't have to talk to them. Just listen to the music that they're playing and they're singing and so forth, and you'll know more about the people than if you talk to them, because the music will reveal everything. And I think this is very important to understand that music is enormously powerful in our lives and in our society. The other day I was down, every morning I ride my bike down to the lake, and I take a swim. And so and usually I'm the only one there. Nobody else wants to do that except me. But I go down there early in the morning and take a swim. Not even that early, maybe 9:30 or something. And I was taking a swim, and I came out, and then this young guy, he was probably, maybe 17 or whatever, had arrived, and he had some kind of a audio device. I think it was his phone, probably his phone. And he was playing music, and it was kind of loud. And it really made me sad, actually, because the music was so, to me, really toxic sounding. I mean, and he was playing it, and he was walking around with it everywhere he went. He had this phone, and he was playing this music. And it was some kind of, I guess you'd call it rap. I'm not really sure, but I could just feel the rhythm was a kind of a stopped anapestic rhythm, which is well known to weaken the heart, that kind of boom, 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 that kind of thing. It goes completely contrary to the way what our body likes. And then the words, the lyrics, the feeling, and he's just going around with this music. And this is the kind of music that is being marketed to kids, really. I mean, it's kind of everywhere. And I think about the damage, really, that music can do, as well as the healing. So music is not only healing, music can be harmful, so-called music. I would say that's sort of so-called music. And in fact, I even read an article written by a man who was high up in the music industry, and he told about back in I think it was 2000, maybe in 2002, something like that. He went to a meeting, a private meeting for the music industry, and there were these people that were there to make a presentation to the music executives, and he was one of the pretty high up executive in the music industry. And it was a shocking meeting to him. It shocked him so much he got out of the industry, because what the meeting said, what these people that made a presentation said, was that the music industry, the high level financial investments that I guess Sony and some of these other music companies were investing in was building prisons, which was a new growth industry. And so this guy was saying that we're going to, as a music industry, we're going to really promote gangster rap, because we need to fill up the prisons. And when we fill up the prisons, we'll make a lot of money because that's what we're investing in. And so that's what we're going to do. And this guy was upset, and he started speaking out against it. And they had these security guys came, him and about 4 or 5 others, and they took him outside and they made him leave. And sure enough, gangster rap just took off. It became a big hit. It was promoted everywhere. The prisons filled up. It worked really well to divide and people racially and so forth. So, music can be used against us, and it can be used for us. So I want to just encourage everyone to be really conscious about what you choose to listen to when you're listening to music, or what you expose yourself to, and be aware that there's a lot of music that's pretty toxic, I think. The whole music, like always having music playing in the background, like when you get onto an elevator or something, a lot of that music is not that helpful. But let's talk about some of the powers of music in the positive sense, because I think we can learn. about music. And one of the, main things to understand, I think, about music is that there's these three primary elements to music that when we play music or when we listen to music, they affect us profoundly. So the first one is rhythm, right? And rhythm is so powerful because that's really the foundation of vibration. And what we are vibratory beings. And so if we allow our vibration to get too low, in other words, if we get into depression or anxiety or fear, these are very low-level vibratory states from the point of view of our consciousness. And if we listen to music that kind of comes from that place of sadness and depression, it'll probably reinforce that. So it's a good idea to be aware of that. And so there's higher vibratory states that are more joyful and gratitude and so forth. And I think it's good to be aware of that we can listen to these kinds of things. And it's been kind of shown. There's been books written about this and so forth, like Bach's Brandenburg Concertos and Handel's Messiah, and a lot of Beethoven symphonies and other music. The Beatles had a lot of great, very uplifting music. Paul Simon, a lot of people, very uplifting, not only lyrics, but the melodies and the but I want to specifically say on the rhythms. And one of the best rhythms you can listen to is a waltz. I mean, a 3/4 time is something about that is very strengthening to the heart and to the endocrine system and to the general overall health of our body and mind. So be aware of that. And but there's others. I mean, a 4/4 beat can also be very good too. But being aware that there are multiple rhythms in our lives, right? We have the rhythm of our heart is sort of the basic rhythm. It's always going, right? And it's about 1 beat per second, roughly. So that basic rhythm is something that is very important to us at an unconscious level. Also, our breathing. One of the things that we have to understand is our breath. The rhythm of our breath is directly connected in many ways to our consciousness and the quality of our consciousness. If we start getting frustrated or angry, we will breathe more rapidly. So one of the things we can do is slow down the rhythm of our breathing consciously, and we'll find ourselves relaxing. And a slow rhythm of music will help us to do that. Like we have an album out called Ocean Prayer, and it's a whole hour of slow music. And people love it for meditation and for Reiki and for just falling out to sleep if they can't sleep at night. People tell me they just play it all night, have Ocean Prayer on. Because I just consciously made a whole album of slow, relaxing music. Just like this is one of them. It's just... So you get that feeling, just this kind of music. It can really help you if you're feeling stressed out or, rushing too much. Put on some slow music, something that makes you feel harmonious and happy. And so it's really good to be aware of that. And then and slowing down the breathing. So we have all these different rhythms. We have circadian rhythms. We have rhythms of our digestive system. We have, nano rhythms of the molecules and cellular level, all these rhythms, big rhythms, the seasons of our lives. So rhythm is incredibly important and it can be very healing. It can also be damaging. So be aware of that. So music that has a helpful rhythm. Another main component of music is harmony. And I think harmony is so interesting. Harmony is when you have two or more notes playing together, or an interval. So, and this is all the Western music, to me, it really came out of Pythagoras. Pythagoras, 2,500 years ago in Greece, kind of created the 7-note scale that we use. So we have these scales, or the minor. We have these the 7-note scale. And it's actually 12 tones. It's actually 12. So those 12 tones are really incredibly. It's an amazingly brilliant system. I would love to talk for an hour about it, because the mathematically the harmonies, like an octave, like A 440, and then the next octave, that's 880, that's 220, that's 110, that's 55. I mean, it's an actual doubling. It's a mathematical doubling. And there's actually really beautiful relationships mathematically between the octave, which is the tonic, and the dominant. Right? That's 440, that's 660, that's 880. I could go into all that. I kind of forget some of them, but the perfect fifth, which is called the dominant, the fifth naturally leads back home to the tonic. When you hear this, it just wants to go here. It just leads. It creates. Where's that going to go? Right? So we have to understand, this is harmony. Harmony is what creates the main thing in music, the main thing in our lives also, which is tension and resolution. That's the heart and soul of music. It's the heart and soul of our lives. It's the heart and soul of spirituality. You wouldn't have any spirituality if you didn't have tension. Right? Like, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to say? What? That's the tension. And then how can we resolve that? But then we resolve it, but then it always goes on again. And then we can resolve it again. Our life goes on, and the tension builds. Sometimes it gets excruciating. There's so much tension. And it wants to go back home, but sometimes it goes somewhere else. It goes into another key. Sometimes we go to a whole new doorway opens. We modulate into a whole nother key. So we have to understand. This is all harmony. These are the relationships between the notes. It wants to go here, but it could go here. And then it can come back again. Back home again. But if someone was to play and then just stop right there, you say, "No, don't stop. Come on." You can't do that to us. You can't just stop in the middle. You can't leave it unresolved, right? You cannot leave it unresolved. You've got to come back. And so that's the truth of our spiritual nature. We're here to resolve the great dilemmas. And we can take things, we can modulate into other keys. That's one of the things, the idea that there's these incredible relationships between all the different keys and the different notes. There's so much we can talk about. There's, like I said, there's the major there's the dominant. And one of the things that's interesting is that most in the world, most music is based on a pentatonic scale. That's only five notes. You probably heard that, Kanyo. That scale, that's pretty much what everybody had until Pythagoras came along and created the heptatonic scale, the 7-tone scale. And the main thing he added was the fourth. The fourth, that's called the subdominant. That is what really makes Western music, I think, especially, it gives it this tremendous power. Because if we just play in the pentatonic scale, it's more the minor. I'll play a little bit, and then I'll bring in the fourth, and you'll know what I mean. So that was the fourth. And the fourth, that's the basic amen. Amen. That's the 4-4-1. And then, so there's 3 major intervals in any scale. Then you have the tonic, the subdominant, and the dominant. And then there's 3 minor ones, which are that's 1, 4, and 5, which is 2, 3, and 6. And then there's the 7th, which is diminished, which makes it a whole different thing. But the idea is that these harmonies combine in different ways and create the tension and resolution, which is like in our lives. We have the agony of knowing that people are suffering, that animals are being harmed, that there's war or hunger or someone's loved one passed away. I mean, this is part of life. So we have in the ancient Greek tradition, they had the 7 modes. We use mainly just 2 modes: the Aeolian, which is the minor, and the Ionian, which is the major. And those 2, you can do a lot. But the basic idea is we have these interconnections between these different harmonies, and that's where emotion comes in, and feeling and relationship. And we can see how, like, for example, in one of the well-known pieces, the Pachelbel's Canon in D, that's kind of the Alleluia. How's that go? Like, And so you look at that, that's just very simple. It's a tonic, it's 1, 5, then the minor 6, 3, the other minor, and then back to 4, back to 1, home. 4, 5, and then back home. And there's something about that that's so deeply satisfying, because it's our life. You know, we have this basic life, which is supremely positive. It's great opportunity. Every day we have new opportunities. Then we have a challenge. What are we going to do? And then we have a revelation. And we come back home. And we give thanks. That's our life. And we can support each other in that. And one of the neat things is, in the relationship between notes, is that when they're far apart, they have a certain, every note has a connection with every other note. So, like if I play the 1 and the and say 1 and a, let's see here, what do I do? 1 and a 7, or 1 and a 6, 1 and a 5, 1 and a 4, 1 and a 3. That's a major third, a minor third. Second, an augmented second, or diminished second. Right? It gets very disharmonious. It's kind of interesting, you know, because that's how it is a lot of times in our relationships, right? We can get along fine with the people that are far away. You know, I get along with him great. He's far away, no problem. But the people that are close to me, it's like, they're too close. So we find that we have these disharmonies when we're too close. But the thing that's really beautiful is that those close notes, for example, like the D and the C sharp here in this case, when we have other notes, then that what seems to be a disharmony creates even more beauty. You couldn't have that richness and that beauty see that C sharp and the D, they're like right next to each other. It adds so much more richness. So we need community. Community of other people. Community of other activities. So what seems to be disharmony is actually part of a greater harmony. So if we can expand our view, expand our ear, and when we hear that disharmony, we can hear the other notes. And I think when we do that, it helps us to realize that we all have our own unique note, right? Each one of us. And that's one of the most important things, I think, is that we understand the importance of finding our own note, because we're always getting pressured to play somebody else's note, you know. You'll be more successful if you were some other note. And maybe we're clashing with another note next to us. But maybe that clashing is actually part of a greater harmony, and it brings us into a greater harmony. One of the things that's interesting, I think. I can see, I got to start to wrap it up here, but I can see that this idea that we all have our own unique harmony has been somewhat lost in our society. There's a great story, it's a true story about some villages in Africa, I think maybe in other places, where there was a tradition where a woman who was pregnant, when she was getting close to delivering the baby, she would go off by herself for a whole day into the forest and just meditate and pray and listen for a melody, for a unique melody. And the whole idea was that the being inside of her is a unique being and has a unique melody. And she would listen. And when she got what she felt like was the melody of this little being inside of her, she would come back and she would teach the melody to the whole village. So they all learned it. And then as she was actually in labor and giving birth to the baby, and as the baby was coming out, the people who were attending the birth, who had all learned the melody, they would sing that melody to the little being as he or she came out into the world. And then they would sing that melody so that she or he had the understanding that they had this unique and beautiful melody. And then when that person got married to another person, they would sing the two melodies of the whole village, that they're coming together, these two melodies. And then when the person would pass away, they would sing the melody again. And the idea is that, we are each a melody. And the melody, the beautiful thing about a melody is a couple of things. One is like right now, I'm sitting at this piano and there's no music coming out, right? I mean, it's just quiet. But then when the karma or the cause and effect happens for some reason, then there'll be some music. A melody will come forth, but whatever begins will end, and at a certain point it'll stop. So the key thing is silence. I mean, silence is the infinite potential that gives rise to an infinite number of melodies. And the melodies last for a while, and then they always return to silence again, eventually. And that's the beautiful thing of the divine silence, the infinite love that is the source of all life, in many ways is the infinite silence that gives birth to an infinite variety of melodies, all the birds and trees and humans and planets and stars and galaxies. I mean, everything can be seen as vibration, as a melody that is born and is sustained by silence. And if we can connect with the silence within the melody that we are, if we can hear the silence within the music, we're connecting with the source that we are. See, we live in a society that's afraid of silence. We always want to have something going on, some music in the background, have the TV running, be talking to ourselves or talking to someone. We're afraid of silence because we're really afraid of the divine source of our being, which is silence, which is the pure potential. In the silence, anything can happen. And so I think it's important to understand that, and also to understand the power of the unique note that we are, right? The unique melody that we are, and the unique note. Like if I'm sitting at the piano here, one of the things I write about in my book, which is called Your Inner Islands, the Keys to Developing Your Intuition, I have this idea, which I think is so important, which is that if I sit here at the piano and I only play one note, say a B flat, and that was all I ever played, there's not a lot of power in that B flat. It doesn't, because it's just one note. But the thing that's really beautiful to understand is that even though that note doesn't have much power by itself, it has power when it's part of a larger unfolding, right? So if I play that same B flat note within a piece of music, say like this, you can hear perhaps the idea here that there's much more potential in that note because of the other notes. So we really, in a sense, depend on each other. So the idea is that the power of that note comes from two things. It comes from the other notes, right? The community of notes. So we all really, to have a life of meaning and purpose and beauty, we can't just do it by ourselves. We really are called to play with the other notes and in the whole potential. But the other thing that's critical is that note is true to itself. That B flat is a B flat, right? If that B flat, when it was a baby note, was taught that, well, B flats actually don't get ahead in the world. You should be a B or an A or a B sharp or something. Then that we wouldn't. Then when I go to play that note, it wouldn't be there. So the whole idea is to find our true note. And when we do that, I think when each one of us connects with our true note and we just put it out there courageously, right? Just sing it out, our unique being. That gives permission to all the other notes to be true to themselves, because that's the key thing, is that we each make the effort and do the practice to connect with the inner silence, so we connect with our true nature and then sing our song and dance our dance and through life. And that doesn't mean it'll always be an easy song, but it does mean it's authentically ours. It's our song. And then we can connect with others and we do that together, then we're creating something really beautiful. So I can see I'm really at the end of my time, but I want to thank all of you for your kind attention, and think of some of these principles, the principle of rhythm and vibration, the principle of harmony, the principle of melody, the uniqueness, and be aware of the music that you're listening to, the music you're creating. We can create beautiful music together, and understanding the healing power. And one of the things, I'll just close with this idea, we discovered, it's so interesting, because I used to actually play, I would tune into someone and create music just for them. And I did it for my niece and nephew. Remember Christy and Michael? I created some music for them and sent it to them, and they really liked it. And then I was up in Canada. It was the very first, I was way back in 90 something, early 1990, I think it was. And for the very first time, I decided to go to some Unity churches. I was teaching college, and I gave up my teaching job in San Francisco teaching. I had a great teaching job at a college there, and to just go to Unity churches and travel in my 1971 Volkswagen bus. And I was at this church up in Toronto, and this guy, he was a very famous psychic from Virginia Beach. He was giving a workshop, and he said, there's a man in this room who can tune into your spirit and create your music. And his name is Will Tuttle. And I was like, what? I never, but when he said that, and everybody was like, really? And so I smiled inside, because I knew I could do it, because I had done it a few times for people. But he somehow picked up on that. And so then these people came up to me afterwards, and they said, oh, can you create my music? And I said, sure. So I ran out and I bought some microphones, and that's back in the day of cassettes, and a cassette recorder, and set it up. And I charged him, he was charging $300 for a reading. So I said, okay, $300, I'll do it for you. I brought my price down later. But anyway, so I just started doing that. And I started telling people that I can do that when I went to a Unity church on Sunday morning. And every single weekend I would get 4 or 5 or 6 people say, yeah, I want to do that. So I would sit with them. They would sit next to the piano, and I'd tune into them and I'd play. And then when Madeline came over, she started painting. She'd do a painting, and I would do music. So we ended up doing these for decades. Like every Sunday, I would do 10 or 20, tuning into people, hundreds, thousands. And so we've created so many called individual music in our portraits over the years. And I've really gotten to hear from people about the healing power of music, because they tell me, I listened to your music, and my arm, I couldn't use it. Now I can use my arm again. Or I was having this terrible problem in my relationships, and now it's better, or, whatever. So we've heard from so many people over the years how the music and the art have helped them in a way. So it's been really, just amazing how one person like that guy said that. It's amazing. And that just opened up a doorway to touch literally thousands of people, and given me the opportunity to actually practice seeing beyond the individual to the being. because I think because people would say, well, I'm not having a very good day, I'm kind of sick. The music's probably going to sound terrible, but I say, don't worry, I don't see that. I see you. I play your music beyond the form, and it would come out beautiful. And people would almost all the time they'd have tears coming down. They would really, felt transformed by the experience. And so I feel so blessed. I mean, to have been able to do that for 30 years, just play people's music, their unique music, and just create, thousands of individual CDs for people and cassettes, and to really see the healing power of music and know that it's a reality and in my own life. And the amazing thing is, even with Madeline, I played the piano over there in Switzerland, and she heard the music and she came over. I mean, of all the great gifts music has given me, the greatest gift is Madeline, because she she heard the music and she said, who is this guy? And she came over to make I needed to make a CD, and she said, well, I'm an artist, I could do the cover. And I said, I have no place to put you, I'm living in a Volkswagen bus. And she said, don't worry, I've lived in longhouses in Borneo and grass shacks in Kenya, I can live in a Volkswagen bus, no problem. So she came over and we got married, and we just had our 30th wedding anniversary, and it's been really a great gift. Music to me is such a gift from the divine, infinite power, and it can always bring healing on so many levels into our lives. So I just want to encourage everyone to open up to the healing power of music. Thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, you're good.
Hey, listen, I have just a couple of announcements. And before will sing the closing peace song. Oh. And since all the people listening are Unity people, have their newsletter, they know what's coming up next Sunday at church. We'll have, Patricia Holler, our spiritual leader, but stay for fellowship. We have potluck, birthday celebration. And then let's all go to the very last Sunday, where it's a community Sunday at church with Sarah Merlin. And she's got this great, it's going to be a music celebration, and she is so much fun. And just come one, come all. Again, there'll be more notification about that also. And a potluck, day before Halloween. Man, it's going to be fun. So there we go. And I'm just feeling like, it's just, of course, we all know the donation thing, greatly appreciated. Unity, P.O. Box 755 95457, whatever. Anyway, Will, are you ready? Would you like to sing the peace song for us? We will leave the meeting at the end of this beautiful rendition from Will Tuttle. Okay, Will?
Yeah, I forgot about that, so I'm quickly getting the music for it here.
Okay, well, let's see. I mean, I can keep talking. There you go. Let's just do it. Let's feel it in our hearts, the peace song from Will Tuttle. And then we will leave. All of us will leave. And thank you so much for joining our Unity Sunday service. And with this man.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me, let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Thank you. Goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you.